Hello, friends from Gregário Cycling Podcast. This is a show that starts differently. And we started in English, because we have a very special guest this time. Our guest was here in Gregário Podcast a couple years ago, was interviewed by Álvaro Pacheco. And by then, they were getting their first invitation for a WorldTour race. At that time, the Amstel Gold Race. Now, he comes back with a very strong team, new sponsors, and very high expectations to be on the start of a Grand Tour in 2026. Our invitee from the day is Bas Tietema from the former Tour de Tietema, like we say in Portuguese, the Tour de Tietema, and how they say now, the Unibet Rockets. Bas, welcome to Gregário Cycling Podcast. Thank you so much for having this time to talk to us.
Yes, and thank you for welcoming me again in the show.
Well, it's very nice seeing your progress. I think Álvaro mentioned that when you were here for the first time. Brazil is a very engaged base of fans. We're a small base of fans, especially in cycling and road cycling, but we're always engaging with the teams we like. And of course, through the Tietema and now Unibet Rockets makes all sense for all the things we believe here in Brazil. It's very nice to see your progress. Back then, you were talking and explaining to us that you had a different approach to pro racing. Can you tell us a little bit again on how you saw the pro racing scenario back then and now, and how your team, the now Unibet Rockets, works in that scenario?
Yeah, therefore we have to go back to where it all started in 2019. We started from a media approach with a YouTube channel, and we were three guys with big ambitions, big goals, because we believed if we can make content around cycling, why not start a cycling team that we can set up our own culture and also capture and film and tell the story of our own team. So we started in 2023 with our own continental cycling team. That's the lowest level in professional cycling, with 12 riders, with huge ambitions. And one of them was riding WorldTour races, as we did with the Amstel Gold Race. But now fast forward a few years later, we are still a media team. We have a lot of people working here that are capturing content and telling an authentic story. But we also invested a lot in our high performance team. So at the start of 2026, we signed a few former Tour de France stage winners with Dylan Groenewegen, Victor Lafay, and Wout Poels, and also a lot of other staff members. So everything is going really fast, and our big goal is to come ultimately back to where it all started, that same Tour de France. But that's still the question, when and if that will happen.
That's also a very good question, especially now that we have 23 teams starting in the Grand Tours and a little more space for invitations. But back when you started, you said a term that I've only seen before in a marketing company that also produces energy drinks and that now has its own cycling team, Red Bull, the media house. So you started with this project of having a media house plus a pro cycling team. Does it still work that way? Do you still have like all these branches, like in one big collaboration? Does the media house still have as much space as the pro cycling space you have with Julia?
Yeah, maybe it has become even a bigger and more important part of what we are doing. Of course, we have been growing and investing a lot on the sportive part, but our main goal is to become the most likable and followable team in professional cycling. So we want to be the team with the biggest fan base. So that can help if Brazilian fans will start following us as well. But I think it's super important, if you want to become that, to tell a story and give context to people what you are actually trying to achieve. And for us, we are not a team right now that can win the Tour de France. We are not UAE, we are not Red Bull, we are three YouTubers with, of course, more and more budget coming into the team and the organization, but we still have to to make choices, decision on daily basis to make every step up on the cycling ladder. And
one of the choices you had to make was regarding the name of the team, right? Because at the start, the idea was that you'd keep the Tietema part and not having like a title sponsor above that, and you could keep that for a while. But then last year you made a movement of changing the Tour de Tietema to Rockets team, and Unibet was already a partner. It became Unibet Rockets, and then Rose came in, and it makes total sense, by the way. Congrats on that partnership. And now Unibet Rose Rockets. How was that compromise, and how was it for you and the other founders to make that choice of giving away the Tour de Tietema name and becoming the Rockets and with the new sponsors?
Yeah, that was already the ambition and also the roadmap, because Tour de Tietema was three of us going to the Tour de France, was a YouTube channel really well known in the Benelux, so Belgium, Holland, but now, and Luxembourg, of course, as well. But now with the ambitions of starting a professional and international cycling team, Tour de Tietema was also there were a lot of people that didn't know our background, and we wanted to make a cycling team that is lasting for a longer period of time. And I think what cycling is missing is a real identity, or teams their identity is a lot focused and based on the partners they have. And that's the reason why we try to set up a known franchise name, as you can see most of the time in American sports. So that's why we came up with the Rockets, because the first year our bikes were looking really colorful. They were quite similar to an ice cream that's called the Rocket in Holland. And so that name come up. And yeah, for us, that's something that we will keep within the name forever. But of course, title partners and title names are still a really important part to create and make an income for a cycling team. So we have this hybrid form of having partners, valuable partners with Unibet and Rose, but also having an own identity name that's on our jersey, that's in our name, that's on the bus, that fans can recognize.
And regarding the YouTube channel, you still have the Tour de Tietema with 190,000 followers, so it's a big YouTube channel when we consider cycling and road cycling. And now you have a second YouTube channel, which is the Unibet Rose Rockets YouTube channel, which already has 90,000 followers. So what's the idea? Are you keeping those two? Are you using the Tour de Tietema to talk about backstage? And how's the idea of the content distribution between these two channels?
Yeah, the focus, I have to say, at the moment is really at the team, because it's going so fast. But the Tour de Tietema channel is still adventures that we do with the three of us together. We did the Turbo Cross, that was like an influencer race within cyclocross in Belgium, for example. That's something we do on the Tour de Tietema channel. But our main focus right now is with the team. It has now 90,000 followers, but it's growing so fast, and also with a huge international audience. So, I think you will see the most content the next months and the next year on the Unibet Rose Rockets channel.
Especially once the season actually starts. It's starting now this week in Australia with the Tour Down Under, but obviously as it comes closer to you guys in Europe, I'm looking forward to seeing more content on the channel, because it's always super good. And well, I'll start by making an invitation to all of our listeners to go and check the YouTube channel, because it's really, really good. But sportive wise, you had a pretty good year last year. You had your first pro level win at the Tour of Languaki, and plus the national championships with Lucas Kubish. And then at the end of the year, a few really good hirings, in my opinion. Not only regarding the athletes, like you said, I'll ask you to say Groenewegen's name again, because that is very different for us here in Brazil. But so we have Dylan Groenewegen, Victor Lafay, and Wout Poels in your team now, which you usually didn't have like big names. You were almost until then looking at smaller riders, riders that you formed in-house. And now not only these three athletes with Tour de France victories, Giro victories, Vuelta victories, you also have Marcel Kittel as a sprint trainer. So we're looking forward to seeing some sprint trains in the season. How was it for you to, I don't know, how was the process to change this mentality and get to a point where you say, okay, now we have to bring in big names? What's the purpose? Is it for the points? Is it for the visibility? Is it a little bit of both? How is the thinking behind that?
Yeah, I must say that the foundation and working with a lot of talented people in general is still the base of what we are doing. And if you look, for example, the team that started in 2023, there are still 7 riders part of the Rockets nowadays. So that means that we are also capable to improve them in-house, as you said. But we also found out that having expertise on board and people with a huge track record in professional cycling can even lift that up. And I think you see that most of the times in team sport as well. If you have this one specific athlete that can lift up the team, that can bring all the others also so much more. And that's what we really try to do. For example, in the sprint train, we have Dylan, who have won 77 victories in his career. We have a lot of riders that have the potential and also the energy to do everything that's necessary to make it work. If we can combine that, then we really believe that Dylan can be still one of the best sprinters in the world. And same goes for Wout. We have a really young climbers group, and they are already performing on a really high level. Of course, the level of Pogacar and these phenomenons is another level so far, but they are really talented. And bringing Wout Poels in this team, that brings a lot of experience. But not just experience. He's also there to still perform. And last year he won the Tour of Turkey, for example. So that's also where we're still aiming and looking for, that they are bringing in both results and performances, but also a lot of knowledge and expertise within the team. To lift up the Rockets even further.
It's a very well-rounded team. I think with Lafay and Poels for the climbs, and GC and Groenewegen obviously for the sprints. And you also have Nicholas Larsen, for example, which is a very good time trialist. So I think it's a really nice team we're looking at here for the year. And last year we had, I don't know how to put it, but maybe a small lesson from a team that was hanging on for dear life at the WorldTour level, Astana. They went out and they won minor races, but they made a huge amount of points by doing that. So, like you said, these days we have Pogacar and João and the guys from Visma Lisa Bike. And when they're in the race, it seems like nobody else can perform or win. But then Astana did something very interesting and went out to do smaller races and made a lot of points in the season. Do you see that as a potential strategy for the Unibet Rockets?
Yeah, could be. I think first of all, we have been growing every year. We have been growing every year in UCI points. I think we have been doubling our points every single year. And with the signings we did so far, I really believe we can once again maybe double our points. Because I also believe that points are also just an outcome of the level that you have within the team. But as you said, what Astana did, it's also questioning yourself. Do you go to a race where maybe the most eyeballs are, or what is the highest level or the highest rank race to participate in? Or is there another opportunity where the starting list is maybe a little bit lower level, but where you can compete for the win? And I think that's something that every team needs to decide how they measure success. Is success riding really well in the best races is success. Winning as much races as you can is that UCI points. Um, yeah, everything
Being
can
the
be
most likable team,
everything
it's
can be
not
a
a measure of
success.
success. Yes,
But I really believe that UCI points can be a really good reference for how you are doing, and I think that's also the reason why we make certain decisions. I think the classic racing, that's where we are really strong at. Of course, we have climbers, but I think that's also more a development target as well. But classic racing, that's something we are capable of winning races, maybe at the lower level, but also compete at a really high level. Because at the highest levels, you can also receive the most points. But you need to be cautious that you are not going to a race that you are aiming for good results, but that you are not competitive. Then you can maybe switch better to a race that suits your level. So that's a balance act we have to make. But I think at the race calendar, we will have that almost all the races we can compete for good results. And that will result in UCI points.
for sure. Talk us through that calendar so far. What you have already confirmed and what you're expecting to have in the next few weeks and months.
Yeah, that's the challenge as a Pro Tour team. We are the 17th of January, and I have to say that there aren't much races or World Tour races confirmed so far. We will start the season in exactly 6 days in Spain. Then there is a block of 3 races with Monteverde, Castellón, and Valencia, where is also a sprint race where we will start the season with Dylan. Then we will go to Mallorca, and that's the first races we will do as a team. Of course, with Omloop het Nieuwsblad, Paris-Roubaix, and Amstel Gold Race, the races we did last year, we are aiming for many more wildcards in the Spring Classics. And I think that's also looking good. But yeah, it's the challenge as a pro team that even during the season, it's not really known what kind of races you are invited to. So we are working with different scenarios. But yeah, I think we have to say we are in an upward trend. Things are going well. I think there is a really good sentiment, and it's a huge compliment that people are seeing us already as a candidate for many wildcards. So we try to be as ready as possible, and it would be nice when we know it in advance. But anyway, we want to perform directly from the start of the season.
That's awesome. As a pro team, a pro tour team, you had some really big competition coming in the scenario last year with Tudor Pro Cycling and Key 36.5. I guess the line was going to be much shorter for you guys to be in the Tour de France, for example, if it wasn't for these 2 pro teams that came in last year. Do you see more teams coming into the Pro Tour scenario in the next 1 or 2 years? And how do you put yourself and your team against these new Pro Tour teams like Q36.5 and Tudor that came in with like huge investments, big name on top, like Pidcock for the Q36.5. Do you think you're on the same level of these guys and you can like make the Grand Tours organizers think that way too?
Specifically looking to those 2 teams, we are still an underdog. As you said, I think they have huge resources, but also they have a really strong team. Of course, we will try to do as much as we can to compete against them. But I think they are even competing against many World Tour teams. I can see them beating many World Tour teams as you look at their squad. So I think also the label of World Tour and Pro Tour, where there was maybe a bit of a difference in the past that World Tour teams were really on top and Pro Tour teams were second-tier teams. I think that's more equal so far, especially with those teams coming into the sport. I also believe that we have to look at our strength, and I think that's our approach, how we started the team. we don't have those resources and maybe high investment so far. But I think what we do have is a huge fan base and yeah, the sentiment and the authenticity of the story that we are trying to aim it as far as possible in the world of cycling. And yeah, maybe we will lose because we are missing just out of signing bigger riders, but yeah, we've come already this far by the way of doing that. If you can continue that way, then maybe eventually we will be on that same sportive level as well, because on media side I think we can compete already quite well, or even outperforming them.
For sure. And I think the Unibet Pros Rockets might be even an example for other teams. And we see even bigger teams and WorldTour teams getting into this trend of producing their own content. So, for example, Visma Lisa Bike has their own YouTube channel. Francis Desde with the women's team has the Future Scope focused on that, on content producing, and have been doing that pretty well. Movistar also is coming back with their Netflix series. So we see it as a trend. And I think it's odd that in cycling, you as a team don't get a share of image rights. And so producing your own content is kind of like the only way to make money out of that visibility. Do you think that is sustainable, or do you think you should explore more channels like streaming channels or like Netflix, for example, or YouTube is showing good results in that scenario of pro cycling these days?
I don't know if just performing, yeah, maybe if you are winning all the races is good enough. Of course, I think it's proven that if you win all the races or the biggest race on the earth, that it can be a business model. But I think it's right now it's just not, with the budgets going up, it's never easy to get that money involved in the sport. So you are also competing against other sports. You're competing maybe against other teams as well. And if you are dependent on results, then yeah, sometimes you have better years than others. Well, if you can focus on a sustainable storyline, and we use YouTube as a platform, but that can be on any platform or on any other way. I think it's important to try to make or to have control over your own storyline, and if you can make a business model out of that, and I think we are still not there, but I believe that if we focus on our strength, and I think that's what we did with setting up the Rockets identity, creating fan base, making fan events like we did in the Amstel Gold Race, where we had 1,000 fans gathering together. Well, normally you only have hospitality. I think that's the way how we show it could be done, and I think the future will decide if that's also something that can work for others. But we really believe in this approach, and until till this moment, you can make it to a pretty good pro tour team by doing that. But yeah, I also believe that we should focus from a positive energy on what we can do and what we can control, instead of there's been written and talked a lot about the business model in cycling. But yeah, that also can cost a lot of energy. Well, we prefer to focus on what we can do.
And like you said, having a story and how you tell this story is probably more important than like the outcome, so a win or not. And you had some examples in your team, like a few bad races, and then when it comes to a win, and everybody's just like cheering you up. Can you tell us and like one of your favorite stories in these 3 or 4 years since you became one of the big ones in the Pro Tour?
I still really, I think there was a series that was called "We Go for the Yellow Jersey," and that was back in the days when we were a continental team. We were lining up for the Olympias tour. It's a small race in Holland, .2 race, a race of the lowest category, and we were aiming for the yellow jersey, or that was what the series was called. The first stage went really well, but at the end of the race, we had nobody at the finish line. Nobody, because they crashed out. Another one got sick. But we made a YouTube series about this whole event. So we had to produce a final video. And yeah, for us, it was quite of shame or shameful to produce a video about a team that's aiming for the yellow jersey, but it's not finishing with the single rider. But Devin van der Wiel, one of our founders and a creative genius, said, okay, we need to produce this series because this will give so much context and understanding of people of our journey. And then it was a few weeks later where we won our first big race of the team as a continental team. And then all those people recognized and knew the context of us as a team, not performing a few years ago, having so many setbacks, and then winning one of the bigger races of our season. And that was huge. And I think that shows that showing your setbacks, being transparent is super important, because in sport it seems like everyone wants to show that they are the best and that everything is possible and that they are unbeatable. But to make it more humane and recognizable, I think it's really important to show that side of the sport as well.
For sure. And also, we have an issue these days with the speed in which we can create content. Because, I mean, everybody loves a series, but even if you think about the Tour de France series, Unchained, it comes a year late. So it comes right before the next year. A year is way too long. I mean, it's not fresh anymore. So everybody who likes content, who likes cycling, wants to know, like, what happened in the race today? Like, after your interview, I'll be recording the highlights of the Tour Down Under and the Tour de El Salvador. How is it for you to like combine quality content, which takes a little bit of time to produce, a script and everything else, and that hot content that's like live and keeping everybody like connected to your team in real time?
Yeah, that's I think that's the hard question that we always have to deal with. I think it's always a balance between producing quality and you also want to produce quantity, because how the algorithm and how content works is also just producing media. It's super important to keep feeding your fans and the audience with good content, and it's don't have to be always top notch. And I think it's the balance between your high-end series, and that can maybe also take longer to publish than other content. So that's also why we make layers. We have a series that's called We Are the Rockets. That's like our Drive to Survive series. It's about signing Dylan. It's about our big milestones as owners of the team. We can produce 10, maximum 12 times a year with that series, because you also need to have to tell something. Otherwise it's just you have nothing to tell. But then next to that, we also have inside videos and race footage, and that's where you really want to speed up, because that's also where we are working on right now, to have with Starlink connections, so people can capture footage and at the same moment send it over to someone who is editing. And having good connection in the mountains, it's not always easy. So we are also trying to optimize that process, that at every single race we can produce a video of the race at the same evening. And sometimes it's a misunderstanding of people who are maybe not really into media or content production, how difficult real storytelling is, because nowadays everyone can make a video. Everyone has an iPhone or a good camera and you can make a video, but make a story of video or tell a story, that's the complete opposite. That takes time, that needs preparation. And a lot of people say that we are making videos. Yeah, we make videos, but it's not just your iPhone filming the race. It's high quality content, and it's the same like performing at the highest level in cycling. You need to invest, pay attention, and try a lot before you become better. Um, so media is not media. There's a lot of differences within media or within content. But yeah, I always believe that quality will outperform quantity, but at a certain moment you also need to produce the quantity because people want to stay involved in what you are doing. So it's always that balance act between both. But if you are not producing the high quality, then people don't know the context and don't know what you are doing. So I believe that it all starts with doing that, setting the context, setting a good storyline, and then you can eventually produce quantity as well.
And how does the athletes collaborate on that? Like, are they willing to be a part of this? Are they like excited to be part of this, or do you have any athletes that are like, no, I don't want to, or it's okay if you're getting content from me, but I'm not producing anything? How is it for the athletes in the team and with all their obligations? Because I think it becomes one more thing that like they're entitled to as a pro athlete.
It would be weird if now someone is joining the team and not knowing about what we are doing. So most of the people joining the team know our background, they know about what we are doing, but there's still for them the primary focus is to perform well on the road. And we are producing content of a group of guys trying to aim for good results. That doesn't mean that they need to produce 24/7 content themselves, but they are just part of the bigger story we are trying to tell. And of course, we have more main characters because, of course, with Kittel, our sprint coach, or Dylan, or Victor Lafay, or Lucas Kubis last year, they are main characters of our story, and they will have maybe a bigger role in what we are trying to capture. But it's not that we are aiming that everyone becomes a vlogger or a media personality. It can also that you have a role within the series if you don't even use social media. And I think we have a huge media team. We are around 25 people working on the Rockets from media side. I think that's huge. There is no other WorldTour team or any team within cycling having such a media team. And they primary focus is to tell that story. And so what we need is the culture that everything is allowed to film. And we have to be really cautious with what we are broadcasting or what we are eventually releasing on YouTube. So that's always the balance between you need to capture everything, because if you don't have the images, you can never tell the story, and therefore you need trust with athletes, trust with coaches. But it also demand a certain trust the other way around, that our creators or editors are not releasing content that harms any athlete. Or so I think that's something we have been done over the last years, and I think also the people within our team know what we are producing, yes or no. And I think that's the fundament of creating this culture as a team.
And you mentioned two important things, trust and culture. And we know cycling has had a trust issue with the public, with the institutions, doping issues that were very present in the past. And I think that when you say that, well, you have to get images of everything, you have to be, there's also a little bit of like transparency that you're exposing the team to the public as things really are, what they eat, how they train, how they rest, how they they deal with their losses or their victories as well. Do you think that if more teams, or by doing your thing, you're spreading a little bit more of this culture that cycling, well, it's hard, but it's not it's not a bad thing, as people used to think of, like have this image of the world tour from back in the day, from like 20 years in the back in the day.
Yeah, regards your question about doping. It's not possible to film 24/7,
Yeah,
24
you're right.
hours, 7 days. So it's impossible. If that's happening, you can only control what you are doing as a team, and I think you have to make sure that that is working super professional, because yeah, it has such a big influence and impact on the rest of the team if this happens, and even for the whole sport as a whole. If these things happen, that will be a huge impact. But what I do believe is that being authentic and transparent can help a lot of help people understand what's going on. And I think a good case is how we filmed the negotiations and the process of Dylan Groenewegen signing for our team, because that shows how a transfer in cycling happens. Because normally it's a template of this rider goes from team A to team B, but then how does that work? How is that going? Is that a talk in a restaurant? Is that on an office? Is that a phone call? And how did Remco Evenepoel went from Soudal to Red Bull? That's a question everyone wants to know. And I think those kind of that context can help gain more cycling fans, but also the current cycling fans also understand better how the world of cycling goes. Because for people within the pro world, it all seems logic, and this is all quite common for them. But we shouldn't forget how difficult the sport cycling is for people outside the sport, with all the tactics involved. Like, it totally makes no sense how the wildcards. How does the world of wildcards work? It's really hard to explain to people not within the sport. And I think these kind of topics, and that's not something we can change by ourselves. Therefore, we need more teams or other stakeholders. But yeah, I hope that being in front of some of these topics, we can help others move as well. If that's the Rockets, if that's producing media, if that's what we show in that media, or how we interact with fans. I hope that's that can ultimately also help other teams doing that as well, because that's how I believe cycling can attract more fans.
For sure. And I think it's a very big, important lesson for other countries as well. If we think of like the Brazilian scenario or the Latin American scenario, or even now with the new American team, the Modern Adventure getting into the sport, I mean, it's kind of, you still have to make it understandable for most of the people, because like in Benelux, everybody knows cycling, everybody knows road racing, everybody knows the classics, everybody knows the Tour de France. But here, we don't have that culture. So having these good quality content, good stories, engaging fans is super important, and it's a really big lesson. But also, do you think the wild card issue, because you're like a Dutch team, does it get it in your way, being a Dutch team, to get invitations for the Giro, for the Vuelta, for the Tour de France, because they tend to think of their national teams first?
Nationalities have played a role, but I think right now with Victor Lafay signing for us, Van Turini, we are riding actually on a France license with Unibet is part of the France lottery, so that's also one of the reasons why we are riding under France license as well. But it's really hard, because also us as a team or fans don't know how much influence that has. So I can understand for any organizer, because this is about, for example, RCS or Unipublic or ASO, that it's the case for them, but even organized on lower level, why do you invite a certain team? It's not like a ranking or a league table that if you promote or relegate, that it's clear. But I think this is the flexibility organizers have to choose and create their own starting field. But that also makes it insecure for teams, but also for fans, that they don't know, why is this team selected, yes or no. There is not a clear reasoning behind that. So also asking this question to me or to any other team is really hard to answer, because we also don't know all the factors that comes into play to make a certain or final decision. And I also heard, of course, the riders that you have within the team, sometimes also partners involved, or results in the past, or nationality, can all play a certain factor, but exactly knowing what kind of role it plays, it's really hard to define as well.
Yes, that's for sure. And well, you've made a really good selection of players to have in your team, considering those possibilities. Of course, with like recent winners like Lafay and Poels have won in 2023, so just a couple years back in the Tour de France. Um, for this year, do you believe the team will be in one of the Grand Tours?
Phew, I hope so. It's a dream, but on the other hand, if it's not this year, then the dream still stays. Yeah, will keep the same. And I think with how we are growing, I think it will eventually happen. It will be super nice if that's already the case this year, but otherwise, we will try to win as much race as we can, score as much UCI points. Then for next year, because we have already so many races that we also need to show how good we are, and that we will ride for the first time as well. But yeah, I hope so. That's all. Yeah, would be really nice to line up in the biggest races of the world. But yeah, we can control what we can control, and yeah, that's. We are not one of the top 3 pro teams. We missed out on that. That's the only thing how we can control it. So maybe we should aim for that for next year.
Yeah. And well, as you said, you don't know. And you don't know many things like which races will bring you an invitation if you're riding a Grand Tour or not. How does that affect your planning technically? Like, how do they train? Are you doing training camps? Are you playing on a specific part of the season? Like, well, let's focus on the classics so everybody will be in top shape in April, May. How do you plan that sportively, considering you don't have a fixed calendar by the beginning of the year?
Yeah, that's difficult. Um, of course, you have certain periods of the season where you want to be in shape. So, of course, the classic season is a huge objective for us, and that doesn't change if one wild card goes one way or the other. Because, yeah, we will ride. Last year we did Omloop het Nieuwsblad, Amstel, Roubaix. So, of course, we are aiming to be in many of those races. And you have a lot of Belgium classics. So I think it's pretty clear that you can focus on a certain period of the year. Of course, you want to optimize it if you know your whole calendar, because also with altitude camps, training camps, you can optimize it as best as you can. And that's hard if you don't know it yet, because one race can have a huge influence on also other races. But for us, I think we also have to be in a humble position, and that's also why we want to score directly from the start of the season. There are so many races where we still need to perform and aim for the best, and then later on we can optimize it as best as we can with knowing your whole calendar, trying to prepare as best as we can. Because even if you don't know that you need to race a certain race, you can still prepare for it on a standard high level. So I
Well,
hope we know it as soon as we can, but otherwise we also just need to be in top shape during the classic season, and then we will see afterwards.
well, we're getting close to the end of the program and the show, and I wanted to ask you something that I've heard from a few pro athletes in different ways. If you could choose just one thing, getting an invitation from a Grand Tour this year or winning a major race, what would you choose as the founder of the team?
What is a major race?
Well, you can choose one. Actually, I would ask you which one race would be like a dream come true and would be even an invitation from Grand Tour.
Then I think I would say a major race because our dream can wait. It's not like our goal of becoming the team with the biggest fan base is not ending by a Grand Tour. It's not starting with a Grand Tour. So if we can win, for example, Roubaix or this kind of race, that would be super huge. And then I think it can wait. But yeah, winning such a race is not something you do overnight. That's that's a really demanding race, especially if you see the legends that are racing those races these days. But yeah, if I really need to decide, then I would say winning
A
a monument.
monument. That would
Yeah,
be a huge goal. And
and
well,
then we wait one more year.
and I think if you win a monument, you might get a speed ticket for a Grand Tour race as well. It might even help. I mean, who wouldn't want a monument champion in their start line?
Yeah,
Well, so we'll be cheering for you guys here from Brazil, and I really hope uh, this show gets to a lot of people, and a lot of people get to know and follow your channels, subscribe to your channels because you tell really good stories, and not only for the good stories. I think you have a really, really good team, really well assembled. Congratulations on that, and we'll be cheering for a great season for you guys.
thank you. And I will be waiting for the first pro level race in Brazil, so we can also ride races as the Rockets in Brazil.
That would be amazing, and I'll make sure if you have one that you
Just
get
call
an
me.
invitation for that.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Boss. Was really nice having you again in our show. Uh, we'll be there in Europe pretty soon for the classics, and I hope to get in touch to you with you there too.
Thank you. See you
Have a
there.
great day. See ya. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.